So, welcome. This is the it's intuitive astrology insights for October 2025. Um, there was so much that just kind of transpired in September. We had eclipse season happening, we had a lot of retrogrades occurring. Um, And I did a whole write up on that. Hopefully, you guys saw that along with the love scopes and the moon scopes. I think the biggest thing to understand moving forward, especially where astrology is concerned, well, some things to consider. Um, Number one, we gotta watch for charlatans, um, and the fakes who I think in this era, some of them don't even mean any harm. I think some of them just want to be heard, and so they're just saying things that with no track record of you know things being true that they talk about. So I think there's really a space where we have to be careful of just grasping for hope, um, especially in light of reality. And hopefully that'll make a little bit more sense as we get a little bit more into this conversation. September was a lot of things happening, and I continue to say I feel like the last half of not half, the last quarter of this year is just gonna kind of go bonkers. And I know you're already saying, like, girl, it's already enough happening out here. I really feel like not like a brace yourself, but it's just like, why would you not be prepared moving forward, right? Why would you not use knowledge to put you in a place of winning as best you can in your situation? Lots of people do that on a regular basis, but they've told you that that's a problem for you to do it because they want all the knowledge. So it's not actually a problem. We're supposed to be using knowledge to the best of our ability to navigate this life. And so many of us are not using the knowledge, and it's kind of crazy. It actually doesn't make sense. So, September, we came out of eclipse season, um, things feeling heavy, um, things feeling like they're all over the place. Um, just this sense of like what could possibly happen next. So if you were feeling like that, I mean, that totally and completely makes sense to have felt like that. October is typically a time where the veil is more thin, and this is a time where people start to slow down. Um, I mean, I'm here in the South, and it's dark now by about like 7:30, 7:45. And I think they said like 2 days ago was the last time it would get dark by 7:30. It's going to progressively fall back from there um until springtime. So this is where we get into that point where like it's getting dark by like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And so I feel like we're gonna feel that more this year than possibly we've ever felt it before. Um, this is a normal a normal occurrence for us to experience this with the time changes coming up and everything else. Like, that's completely normal, but I feel like it's gonna affect us more. Um, this year. I also feel like our bodies are tired of the our bodies are tired of the time change portion of things. Like it's been time for us to stop doing that, because there's no actual reason for us to do it. um I know they gave reasons before on why they started it, but really there's no reason for us to do it, and there are several states in the United States that do not do that. And from what I understand, they don't really do it in other countries either. It's just us over here in the US doing crazy things in the name of somebody big making money. Um, and so I feel like our bodies are really tired of that. And there's a lot of things that we do that are not authentic to our human rhythm. And I feel like those things are catching up with us. So, just a couple things to look for in October. First of all, the sun moves into Scorpio on the 22nd of October. Um, what do we look forward to in Scorpio season? First, let me give you guys the time. It moves into Scorpio at 11:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Scorpio season needs to be one where we go back to understanding what originality really is and authenticity. Um, it needs to be a time of some increased confidence. We're definitely entering a darker period, but that's not a negative thing. Um, more of us need to operate in our shadow side so we could overturn some things and do things like bringing back decorum and things like that. Like if people operated in their dark and operated in their shadow, we could probably hold each other accountable a little bit better. Um, so Scorpio season, this is a time to, bring back a sense of originality. What is real? What is authentic? We're going to be struggling, like continuing to struggle with what is real. People are really having trouble with that, trying to figure out what is authentic, what is truth. Um, those concepts are going to continue to bust people in the heads. It's been a difficult road, and I remember talking about this years ago, just saying like, please make sure you know the difference between what's real and what's not. Whether it's somebody presenting something to you, whether it's, now we see that coming in the form of AI, where people are having conversations and they don't know that entity isn't real. Like it's a lot, and they've done that to blur our senses on purpose. All of that is by design, y'all. um we have and I'm going to talk about the full moon and the new moon and stuff first before I get to the planets, because we have a couple things in retrograde that I think is kind of important conversation. So first, making sure, like, if you're tuned into this because you're finding me and you're like, okay, what does she do? I like to use astrology as a tool. The key thing in working with me is I don't expect you to read astrology the way I do, or the way somebody who is really into astrology does. Like I don't expect that to become your language. What you can do is understand what energies are happening and understand how to use that to your advantage. Understand how to use what I'm talking about to get you to cross obstacles and barriers, and understand how to use it to make sure that there are no obstacles and barriers even presented or created, right? So if you can have insight and you can have knowledge, use it. so things are better for you. Use it so things are easier for you. Use it to sidestep things. Also, use this information to dig deeper. We're on autopilot 89% of the time. And sometimes we need to stop and regroup and look at things and really scrutinize things and really pay attention. And so I use astrology as like checkpoints for myself and my own personal growth, right? So when I talk about the energy for, like I just talked about for Sun and Scorpio, confidence, understanding what's truth and what's real, you can incorporate that in your life by making sure that you're using your discernment, making sure you're using your intuition. Do you have to know anything about the energy of Scorpio? No, but can you look around you and say, okay, the key theme for the next 30 days is leaning towards what is actually true, understanding what's actually real, and walking in that in a sense of confidence and authenticity. That's how you use that information. So when things present to you, we're not going to just take it at face value. We're going to say, like, what is this? We're going to say, who is the messenger? Is the messenger consistent? We're going to do all of that for the next 30 days. And that's how you embody the energy of that season. So that's how I want you guys to take this conversation moving forward. So on October 6th, we got a full moon in Aries. Full moons are times where like things just come to life, where we really should use that moon as a spotlight to see things more clearly. And because you can easily recognize the full moon in the sky, like most people can't recognize the shape of the moon when it's in the new moon, but you for sure know the full moon. So every full moon, that's your sign to either take some time and rest, or that's your sign to say, you know what have I done over the past month? Like, what did I say I was going to do? Did I get it done? That's the basis of how you can use the moon. That is that is the most elementary basis. And that's good. You can dig deeper with some of the themes that I'm going to post and put out here. But it's a real time of checks and balances, right? So you get a time to check yourself every month. You get a time to check in every month and say, did I complete something? Am I doing too much? This is how you use astrology. So full moon in Aries. Aries is fire. It's new beginnings. The Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is a warrior, right? And so it's in aspect with a couple different things here. We have it's in aspect with Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune. And so what do we see coming up for the full moon in Aries? Well, we want to tap into our emotional strength. We want to show some calm under pressure. We want to anchor ourselves in ancestral wisdom and emotional wisdom. We want to be more deeply intuitive at this time. I want you guys to know that the spiritual army is always working, right? So even when you just get up on a regular basis and you don't ask for those spiritualists to do the work they do, when you don't ask for the prophets to do the work they do. And so what tends to happen is when things start crashing down, people want to come up and say, well, where is this and where is that? And they've been working in the background. You think they was just sitting down because you didn't see or you didn't pay attention? That's crazy. Because then that's a really self-centered approach to things, to say that things are only when I see them. Well, what if the question really needs to be is, why weren't they always on your radar? People don't have to be performative for you. They don't. That's the and really we got to get rid of a lot of the performative stuff, because it hasn't taken us anywhere. This is a time to be more deeply intuitive, despite things around us feeling less grounded. Um, we want to make sure that there is a balance, uh, like there's a space where we have learned to disconnect, and disconnecting is different from disassociation and detachment. Disconnecting is different than detachment. Those are two different things. Um, there's disconnection, there's disassociation. Disconnection is, when you kind of decide to unplug from something. I'm going to disconnect from the internet. I'm going to take some time out. That's a little bit more purposeful. Disassociation is like literally there's a space where like you kind of come up out of your body and you dissociate with everything around you because it feels too heavy. It feels like a lot of pressure. Those things are totally different from detachment. Detachment is the ability to go through life and not link all of these things happening to you, right? So it's like this thing occurred, but and it occurred because it occurred. And I'm not going to internalize that. I'm going to, see this situation for what it is and figure out how to move myself through, take any accountability that I need to take, and we're going to keep it moving. Detachment is a more healthy space to be in. We do all need to disconnect sometimes, but most of the time we don't disconnect proactively. We disconnect after things just feel too heavy. So continuing with Saturn and Aries, Saturn is our well, first of all, let's go back and talk a little bit about where Saturn has been. So Saturn has been um with it's been going back and forth. It's one of those planets that's been going back and forth between Pisces and Aries, same as Neptune. Saturn is responsible for our um it's responsible for the way that we structure ourselves, the way that we create our own personal standards. Um and so Saturn is kind of like that big brother energy that kind of tells you to stay on top of things. That we're gonna, while it's going back and forth between Aries and Pisces. Pisces is more like that hyper religious, super religious structure. Um, it indoctrinates a lot of things, but then it can also create a space where it makes you feel like a martyr. Um, and so with it going back and forth in Aries, there's this space where we are trying to this is space where we are trying to have a better understanding of where we came from and possibly why we don't need to go back there. It's a very, just call it a very existential space to be in. And any of these Pisces alignments are very existential. The Aries alignments come through and say, you know what? you could create some action out of some of this. You can let go of this, or like the Aries comes through and puts the order in place after you have clarity on what it is that you're dealing with. Um, and I hope that makes sense. So Saturn in Aries is about breaking the limits and being resourceful. Um, but there may be some frustration in pursuing any individual goals. Um, and so Saturn is still retrograde in Aries through November. So we're dealing with that balance that we need as individuals, with the collective responsibilities, right? Because we have our personal things that we owe ourselves, and then there's a piece where we need to have better understanding of how we excuse me, add to the collective, and how we can do better by one another. We have Pluto going direct in Aquarius on the 13th. This Pluto energy is super important, because it's helping to usher us into the age of Aquarius. Some people believe we're already there. I think we're not quite there yet. I think we still have like another 100 or so years until we really get to the age of Aquarius. But this is us keying in on social structures and social hierarchies, looking at progress where politics and science are concerned. And this is it. Pluto going direct in Aquarius also brings us an intense amount of paranoia. So when you have that going back and forth with Saturn going back and forth between the hyper religiousness and structures of man-made religion versus breaking the rules, there's a lot happening there. When Aquarius reaches Aquarius is going to stay direct, and it's I'm sorry, Pluto in Aquarius, when it stays direct, it stays in Aquarius until 2044. So we're going to have like a lot of existential crisis for the next, what is that, like 20 years. I mean, but we have to, like, it's like an identity crisis. Like, but we have to, because a lot of the things that we have built as our foundation, I mean, you can't just pull the rug from out. That stuff has got to really fall, and it's gonna fall. It's gonna take a lot of time to crumble, and it's gonna take a lot of time to clean up. That is a thing that we've really got to understand. I think people want to kind of flip right through certain things because they want to feel like, it's like, okay, how do we get out of this? How do we feel better? It's going to take time. It's really going to take some time, because it took time to get here. It really took time to get here. So it's going to take time to unravel so much of this. Neptune goes retrograde in Pisces. It's still retrograde in Pisces, but on the 22nd, this is very idealistic energy. Neptune moved into Pisces in around like 2011. And it's going to go back and forth retrograde between Pisces and Aries until it settles into Neptune and Aries for good in 2026, like January 2026. And it stays in Pisces through 2038. So you guys see the space here where a lot of what's happening now is crumbling to set a new foundation for like 15, 20 years from now. So that part, when we say like, oh, what part of the Bible are we in now? Like, we're going through a lot of this because where we need to be can't have this energy. Like we can't move forward and take all this baggage with us. Really. And it's funny to me because people are always talking about change the frequency. I'm changing. I'm doing all this stuff. And then when you do change the frequency and stuff don't fit, people get mad and people get upset and people get uncomfortable. Man, we can't take this religious psychosis with us. It's what's had us in a fugue state for so long. You can't take that with us. A lot of what we had religious wise was just such a false sense of just existence. It's insane. So that Neptune and Pisces and Neptune and Aries, that going back and forth, there's this like, what's real, what's not. The stuff that's not has to go. The stuff that's real is what sets the foundation. Venus this month, I love to talk about Venus because we need to our relationships. Those are just communication, social, everything is at an all-time low. So how do we strengthen those relationships? We have to have more positive conversation coming up in reference to our relationships, so we actually prepare to do better. So Venus in Libra. Venus rules Libra. This is the beauty of a planet coming home into its home energy. So there's this kind of idealism that's gonna happen with relationships and how we connect. The problem with that. The problem is, so we've been kind of treating relationships like, old school yard stuff, right? It's like, you can't mess with this person, but I can, right? So it's like, you can't mess with my cousin, but me and my cousin can fight all day at the house, but you can't mess with them. Well, how about you and your cousin stop fighting all the time too? How about we set an energy there where y'all not bickering and beefing all the time? And that's how we've treated a lot of things. You can't mess with the United States. Meanwhile, the United States is over here at home in turmoil all the damn time. But then you go out abroad and you're like, I'm an American. Come back here, girl, I don't care nothing about being, listen, and I've wanted to post this for a long time and I haven't, but like that whole idea of being a patriot, child, I don't know, not one Black person that subscribes to that. That's not a conversation for us. There's so many split conversations within this country. It's crazy. But then you go outside and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm American. Because it's kind of like you against everybody else. Yeah, I'm American. And meanwhile, back in America, child, they don't care. That's how we've treated so many of our relationships. And that is such an imbalance that has to go. Venus in Libra is in aspect with the North Node, which gives us conflicts in reality, which I just kind of discussed. It's in opposition with Neptune, where we're fighting. We need to learn how to fight for our ideals without having any worry. It's also an aspect with that Pluto in Aquarius. So, those social structures and that paranoia, but you're trying to make everything look good. This is also the epitome of people that are ambiguous about these serious and concrete ideas. Like, I've heard people say that they want, you got to be calm and quiet and uh humble, and you've got to have these discussions on racism that are inclusionary, and don't get riled up. Racism is ugly. It's something to get riled up over. You can't tell me that I got to be calm when I talk about that, because you don't have the conversations with your kids that I got to have with mine. Don't tell me I got to be calm. That is that Venus and Libra being in an aspect with Pluto and Aquarius. Like, don't tell me that I got to be we have to have these conversations and be respectful of one another. Wait, what? Racism is a disrespectful ass topic, and I don't have to be cool on you when you have, like, when you're being ambiguous because you don't want to disturb the racist in your personal space. That's a crazy idea. But that's that Venus and Libra being in aspect with Pluto direct in Aquarius. It's also an aspect with Uranus and Gemini. Uranus and Gemini, a lot of technology updates and things like that. So it's like, oh yeah, that AI picture looks really great. But in actuality, I just saw this post where this, like, okay, so in AI you can make all these really great things and they look fun and it looks aesthetically pleasing. Meanwhile, right, so that's the Venus in Libra. Meanwhile, Uranus and Gemini is reminding you that this guy, he did this whole experiment where he took the pictures from AI, did a reverse lookup, found the people, and then like kind of scouted out where they would be, walked up to them and was like, oh my gosh, you're such and such. You're from blah, blah, blah foundation. That's Uranus and Gemini in aspect with Venus and Libra. All those things that you think are cute and are helpful, it's a double-edged sword. Like, it can be equally destructive. And then it's in aspect with that Saturn energy, as Saturn goes back and forth between Saturn and Aries and Saturn and Pisces. There's this space where we have to balance our desire to, like, seclude ourselves and how we idealize relationships. So we've had this conversation before where I talked about, like, how do you how do you say you want to date and get married, but you don't need to talk to the person but once a week on the phone? That's crazy. But there's a group of people who like that, so they should date each other. They shouldn't try to date people who like to talk every day, but they do. And then there's discourse created that says that the person who likes to talk every day is clingy and wants too much, and all in the name of wanting to seclude yourself. But then the people who are secluding themselves are over here talking about the male loneliness epidemic. Well, y'all don't treat people right. Then I did a whole post and conversation on the loneliness epidemic. Well, you know what? You're lonely and you're not getting hugs because you don't talk to people. You don't talk to people, you don't create friendships, you don't socialize, you want to be at your house, you don't want to go peopling, you don't want to find the balance in peopling, but then you're like, oh, I'm affection starved. Well. We see the conundrum there. So we got the full moon in Aries that we talked about. Then we wrapping up part of the month with the new moon in Libra. So, and it's in aspect with Jupiter, Pluto, the ascendant. Um, there is with this new moon. So new moon time, it's time to like rewrite the rules, take some inventory, try something new, um, try to do things differently in life. Take some time back, maybe to gather yourself during a new moon. And so new moon for October, aligning yourself with your emotions, lots of self-discovery during that time. We can find ourselves with fluctuating moods happening, right? People don't know what to think and they don't know how to feel. There's so much happening. Everything feels so intense. People don't know how to feel. You might find yourself seeking external comforts, feeling overwhelmed, especially as you are trying to explore inner, like anything, like I say, inner expansiveness, right? Um, Also, looking at Pluto for deeper emotional growth, because the new moon is going to be an aspect with Pluto in Aquarius as well. This Pluto in Aquarius is in aspect with a lot of things, that a lot of the alignments happen in this month. So that Pluto in Aquarius is giving us some deeper growth and inner healing, and things feeling more overwhelming, because we understand that there are stuff beneath the surface that we need to manage, that we need to address. So that new moon in Libra kind of wants to stay on the surface a little with the self-discovery, but the things that it's in aspect with the Jupiter and the Pluto, it's like, nope, you got to go beneath the surface, hon. That real transformation takes place under the skin, under the foundation. That's where the change needs to be made, right? So think about a house, or a building, right? You can level it, but if there's, you can level it and get rid of the whole structure, but if there's problems with the foundation, you can build a whole new nice structure on top, and that's going to sink too, because the foundation is unstable. And that is what I think is a huge part that we have to look at moving forward, and why it's going to take so long for all of these changes to come into place. Why we're going to be the next 15, 20 years going through structural changes, because the foundation was so horrible and so decrepit. It's going to take us a while to come out. But we're going to be here. Things are going to work. And if all of us put the work in, we don't ever have to come back to this space. And we can set it up so our kids don't have to come back to no crap like this as well. So stay tuned for more in October. I am doing the 2026 year ahead readings and insights for you guys. Make sure you check that out. All of my regulars have come back and scheduled for theirs, so you want to make sure that you get on the schedule for yours. I only do those through November, and then we pause and we stop, because we don't spend December trying to get ready for the new year. We start doing that early, the new calendar year. We start doing that early. And I like to reserve December for myself to rest and recuperate, because I've been working with people all year long. December is my birthday month, and it's my son's birthday month, and we take the whole month to celebrate and rest and pause. So a lot of my work with clients stops around the end of November, so I can focus and I can get myself the deep rest that I need. So I'm open all of October and all of November for services. Make sure that you guys check in. And make sure you start preparing yourself now for 2026.